Welcome to another lesson on the game theory. This will be the last topic we'll be handling on the game theory, and today we'll be talking about something very interesting. Have you ever find yourself stuck in something that no longer makes sense? Yet you keep pouring more into it, more of your time, more of your attention, more of your resources, more of your emotions, just because previously you have put so much into it. There's a quiet game that explains this phenomenon so clearly that you will understand what's going on. It is called the dollar unction game, and it was invented by an economist called Martin Shubik in 1971. Now, on the surface, it looks simple. An auctioneer or a seller holds up $1 bill. Two people begin to bid. The highest bidder takes the dollar home. But there's a twist that changes everything. The person who comes second, or the loser, must pay whatever they bid, and they will receive absolutely nothing in return. That's the entire game. Now, at first, people think I will just bid 20 or 30 cents and make a small profit. But something strange happens. You know why? Because your opponent is also thinking like you. Therefore, when you bid your 20 cents, your opponent bids 30 cents. If you give up there and stop bidding, your opponent wins the $1 and you will have to pay your 20 cents that you bid. But you don't want to lose 20 cents. You started this game to win, not to lose. So what do? You outbid your opponent. And because your opponent is also thinking like you, he outbids you too. Eventually, the bid climbs past $1 and both players keeps bidding. They keep raising the bids, they keep losing more money, and still no one of them will stop. Why? Because the moment you drop out, everything you had already spent is gone forever. So the goal quietly changes. No one is trying to gain anymore. You are only trying to lose less than the other person. That small shift of intention is enough to keep the bidding game alive long after it has become absolutely foolish. This is what is termed the escalation of commitment. And take note, it does not only happen in auction rooms, it happens in our everyday lives. It happens quietly, painfully, and it happens more often than we will care to admit that it happens. Now, let me tell you about Ada. You know Ada. Ada had always dreamed of studying architecture in the university. She loved the idea of designing homes, of turning empty lands into places where people could live with beauty and meaning. When the admission list came out, her name was there, but not for architecture. She had been given urban and regional planning instead. She paused. It was not what her heart wanted, but her parents had already paid the acceptance fee. Her uncle already bought her a laptop, you know, for school. Friends were calling to congratulate her. So she told herself, it's okay, I would start and maybe transfer to my dream course later. The first year passed. The lectures felt far from the creative work she had imagined. Still, she stayed. She had already spent a full year, and good morning. Quitting now would mean starting from zero and explaining to everyone why she wasted the chance. Second year came. The courses grew heavier, more policy, less designing. At night, she would scroll through architecture pages on social media and feel a quiet ache in her chest. Every time the thought of leaving arose, another voice answered, "You had already come this far. You had already spent 2 years of fees, 2 years of late nights. People already know you as a planning student." By the third year, the money and the time she had invested became the loudest argument. Restarting would mean admitting the first choice had been a mistake. So she stayed. She finished the degree. She collected the certificate. And years later, when people asked if she was happy with her life, she could just smile. She had paid more than the course was ever worth to her heart. Not because she still believed in it, but because walking away would have made every previous payment feel like pure loss. I'm sure you know Ada, but if you do not know Ada, I will tell you about Bayo. Bayo is that guy who saw a blue motorcycle leaning against a dusty wall by the roadside. The seller promised it only needed a little love. Bayo pictured himself fixing the motorcycle, riding it for a few months, and then selling it off for a clean profit. It felt like a smart move. He paid for it that same afternoon. The first repairs were small: a new tire, a fresh battery, a coat of paint that made the old machine look almost proud again. He told his friends he had nearly finished with the repair. He could already see the money returning. Then the engine began making a sound that no oil required. The brakes failed. The wiring was a mess. Every mechanic who looked at it shook his head the same way. Still, Bayo kept handing over money. He had already spent on the tire, on the battery, on the paint, and a little on the engine. He had already told people that the bike was almost ready. Quitting now would mean looking at those receipts and admitting the whole thing was a mistake from the beginning. So he told himself, one more repair would do it. Then another, and so on and so forth. Weeks turned into months. The motorcycle sat in pieces in the corner of the workshop, gathering dust while Bayo's pockets grew lighter. He was no longer fixing a bike. He was protecting the story he had told himself, that he was the kind of person who finishes what he starts, even when the starting point was wrong. So at the end of the story, Bayo spent more than the motorcycle had ever been worth. Not because he still believed it would bring profit, but because walking away would have forced him to face the loss he had already made, and he did not want to do that. My people, this is how many of us lose twice. First, on the bad decision that we made, and again on the refusal to leave it behind. Whether it is a course in the university that no longer fits, a business that keeps bleeding you out, or a relationship that has run its course, or even a motorcycle like Bayo that would never ride again. The dollar auction game is something that lives amongst us. The question is not whether we'll ever find ourselves inside the dollar auction game. The real question is, will you notice when the price of the game had already gone past $1? Whether you will find the courage to stop bidding. I want to thank you for listening to this video on the dollar auction game, and please subscribe to this channel, like this video and share it with your friends please, and subscribe to this channel. It will really mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. God bless.